So we're up to Perek Gimel, Shaar Hayichud Vehaemunah. We finished off last time, but let's just start first of all the first line. First line begins, V'ne'achei hadvarim ha'emes ha'ela. Which are the dvarim ha'emes ha'ela? Is the first two parakim. The Alter Rebbe explained how the Teres of Baal Shem Tov, how every nivra needs the Dvar Havaya kol rega v'rega, and how the Dvar Havaya has to be b'hislapshus b'teich the nivra. We learned that Baruch. What has to be explained now? What is Perek Gimel coming to be Moshe? It says, Achrei hadvarim ha'emes ha'ela. We're coming to a new shlav now, based on hadvarim ha'emes ha'ela, based on the first two parakim. There's now a new shlav. What's he going to explain now? What didn't we understand that we're going to understand now? So let's go a little bit inside and we'll see. Kol maskel al dovo, yogen la'ashuroi, ech shekol nivra v'yeshu be'emes nechshev la'ayin ve'efes mamish. Legabe koyach ha'poel v'ruach piv, shebenifal. What are we trying to explain over here? The Alter Rebbe says that we're going to explain now how the yesh is nechshev la'ayin ve'efes mamish. Says das so. In Perek Aleph and Beis we came out with a maskona that the nivra is totally dependent on the Dvar Havaya. So do we know that the nivra is bottle? We know that the nivra is bottle. But what does it mean it's bottle? It's bottle because it's dependent. It has no self. It has no self-kiyum, any independent kiyum, because it needs the Dvar Havaya kol rega v'rega, and if the Dvar Havaya goes away, he doesn't exist. So that means he has no self. B'loshen Achsidus in other places, this is called the bittul of ein zulase. Zulase, without him, he's ein, he's ein. He's not there, he doesn't exist. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to go to a much higher bittul than that. Not just a bittul that he's without the Eibishter, he's garnish. We're going to a bittul which he says the usual Lashon is nechshav la'ayin ve'efes. What does that remind you of, the Lashon nechshav? Kula kamei, klo choshev. So now the whole Perek is going to explain the bittul of klo choshev. Usually, these are referred to as the bittul of efes. The first bittul is called the bittul of ayin, ein zulase. And the bittul of Perek Gimel is called the bittul of efes. As he says it together, ayin ve'efes, but he's saying ayin, not just ayin, but also efes. It's called the bittul of ayin ve'efes. Why? Because it's klo choshev. Now, how do we see from the fact that he needs the Dvar Havaya kol rega v'rega that he's klo choshev? So he says, let's skip a few lines. We know what it says over here that if you would be able to see the Dvar, we'll learn it inside. Why not? Ayin ve'efes mamish legabe keich hapel v'ruach piv shem how is it talking? Umitzim ayin liyesh mamish miyet liyesh. Umar shekol nivra v'nifel nira lanu liyesh umamoshes. Huh? Is that you? Ayin mamish means he wasn't there at all. There's loads of diukim in every lashon over here, but you can called nivra v'nifel nira lanu liyesh umamoshes. The fact that we see the nivra zehu machma she'enon u'masigim v'roim be'inei basis keich Hashem v'ruach piv shebenivra. It's because we don't see the Dvar Havaya. Aval ilu nitnu reshus la'ayin liris u'la'asik as achayis v'ruchnu shebechol nivra hashefeh b'mimeitzi pi havaya v'ruach piv is loy hoyen yashmis ha'nivra v'chumra moshe nira klal le'neim. If we would only be able to see what it looks like from his point of view, from the Ruach Piv point of view, then we would see that there's nothing there. We wouldn't see the mamoshes, we wouldn't see the chumra. It's not that there's nothing there was something created. But that thing was created is ayin ve'efes. It has no cheshivus at all. In other words, when he says ilu nitnu reshus, he's basically translating to simple language. We're looking from down here. Until now in Perek Aleph and Beis, we're looking from down here. We're here, and we're trying to work out what's our bittul to something higher. So we're saying we're bottle because we need him the whole time to create us. Kol rega v'rega. Now, now that you've understood that bittul, that you're totally dependent on the Dvar Havaya, now we're going to give you a bird's eye view. We're going to take you, what does it look like from his side, from his point of view? From the point of view of the Dvar Havaya. So he says if you'd be able to see from his point of view, you would see that everything is ayin ve'efes. You wouldn't be able to see the chumriyas and the gashmiyas. He who bottled b'mitzias mamish. What's that?
Why does he use the word Gashmi? It sounds like there's no physical, there's no being.
He says he wouldn't be seen. Not that there's no physical. Bereshis V'Elokim is happened. The Eibishter created the Metzius of the world, and it's Gashmius. But by the time you finish seeing, if you'd be able to see what it looks like from the Dvar Havai point of view,
I'm not going to see the Gashmis.
you wouldn't see Gashmius.
Gashmis like...
Yeah, we're so used to Gashmius that we think it's something. Just to illustrate, there's a Maisa they say by the famous Chasna, the Zlobina Chasna, that was between the Alter Rebbe's Einikel and the Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchever's Einikel. And at one point there were so many people there, and they had to get to the other side into another room. So Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchever said to the Alter Rebbe, "Let's just go through the wall." The Rebbe said, "No, we can't do this publicly. Go through the wall." So Baditchever was no problem, just walk through the wall because it's Nishka Metzias, and he probably would have made it through the wall because it's Mamoshes is garnished. For us, Mamoshes is something. If you bang into the wall, it hurts. But if you're on the level of the Dvar Havai, Mamoshes means nothing. Mamoshes is only a chisoron. For us, in Olam Hazeh, Mamoshes is Tevis Malkin. Aber in Ruchnius, Mamoshes is Kuli chisoron. It's just his Gashmus and Avius. It's just making things difficult from what the reality is. The reality is not the Geshem. The fact that we make a Metzius of Gashmus of Olam Hazeh and we're Mafli Olam Hazeh, the Dafke, the Gashmus is this is all mitzad the kavona halyon of Dira B'Tachtonim. The Eibishter wants Dafke Gashmis because he wants Dafke Tachna Shein Tachna Matimeni. Dafke this should be Nisbara and Dira B'Tachtonim. But that's all mitzad the kavona halyon. But if not mitzad the kavona halyon, if you take Olam Hazeh Kamei it's just one major problem. That's all it is, Gashmis. So if you'd see from his point of view, in other words, he's taking Ilu Nitl Rishus, if you'd be able to climb up there and look down from above and see what's going on down here, you'll see Seidonish. There's nothing there.
You're not going to see Gashmis.
You're not going to see the Gashmis. That's what he says. Gashmis, Chumrim, Mamosh, Nira Klal Le'inin.
So it's not the Eibishter when he created, when the Eibishter is saying Yehi or Yehi Kia. What is Metzias inside the Eibishter about Kia?
So we're soon going to see what it is. He's going to give the moshel of the Ziv Hashem, so we're going to see what it is. But after he made it, mitzad the kavona halyena, there's definitely a chshivas teilem hazeh, dafke hisha b'teilem mitzvahs and everything. Mitzad the kavona, but mitzad the schus of the gashmis atzmai, he's worthless. Has no value at all. Mitzad atzmai, there's no value. Ki hu batel b'mitzias mamish legabe hachayis v'aruchnish. Notice the hadgashi is all the gabe the chayis. If you took the Gabi, the Chayas, he has no Chshivas. Now how do we get to this, what's the Cheshbon now? How do we get to this understanding that the Metzias is Klo Choshev, has no value? That's what Klo Choshev means, it has no value. How do we get to that Cheshbon? So he says now the Cheshbon Sichri, again, Shaar Hayichud Vehaemunah is trying to explain Al Pi Seichel as much as we can to understand this. As the Lashon of the whole Shaar Hayichud is called Shaar Hayichud Vehaemunah. We'll get to Emunah in the end, but first we have to understand what we have to be miming in. So first he's going to explain to us as much as our Seichel can understand how everything is bottled. So what is the Cheshbon? So he says, here comes the Cheshbon, why the Nivra is Nechshev La'ayin Ve'efes. Mi'acha shemibil odei haruchnius hoya ayin ve'efes mamish. Since if the Eibishter would take away the ruchnius, there would be nothing. That was what we learned the first two prokim. And that's one thing. That was the first two prokim. Let's do this slowly. He says, that was Perik Aleph. That as soon as you take away the Dvar Havaya, he disappears. That's disappearing Kipshuti. It's not there. Now, besides the fact that he needs the Dvar Havaya, otherwise he disappears, he says, another cheshbon is, V'haruchnis ha-shefei elov, it's self-understood from this, that the ruchnis which is shefei elov, mibenzi pi havai v'ruach piv, in other words, the chayis of the which is making the nivra, hu levadei ha-mitziei tamid me'efes v'ayin liyesh. That's the only source that's making the nivra. Umahava oisei. And since he's the only source, im kein efes beloda be'emes. You notice he's added on another whole line. First of all, he's dependent totally, because otherwise he'll disappear. And the ruchnius is the only source of the nivra. What does that come to tell us? Hu levada hamitziyah. What does that add on? Adds on a poshta cheshbon. If hu levada hamitziyah, that means the source of this nivra has no other place to rely on. Whatever he has, this nivra, comes from the Dvar Havaya, then is it possible then that the nivra should have anything that isn't already there in the Dvar Havaya?
Why isn't that another way of saying the first part?
The first part tells you that he's dependent on the Dvar Havaya.
Dependent means that his entire Metzias is
Dependent-
enabled by this.
Right, so let's take an example. The Kriyas Yamsuf we had in the previous period. The fact that the water stands is from the wind. So the wind is the only reason why the water is standing. But wind and water are two different things.
We're not talking about the etzem Metzias of the water.
He's not talking about the essence. Here he's trying to be madgish that point. It's not just that he's making him exist. And now that he exists, he's dependent on him, just like the poor man is dependent on the rich man, or a child's dependent on a parent. He needs him. It's not just he needs him. He is the only source for his whole Metzias. So whatever you're going to see over here, this Metzias must have come from where? From the Mocker. So if that's the case, does the Metzias add anything to the Mocker? Obviously not, because whatever was there was already here. Since whatever was there already here, so therefore whatever's here, whatever's created, is not adding anything to the Nivra, to the Boyer, to the Keyach Hashem. So since there's nothing added, so Be'emes, nothing happened. Efes B'noda Be'emes. Now this is going to be difficult to understand, right? So that's why the Alter Rebbe uses a moshel. But let's talk the moshel outside beforehand, and then we'll see it inside. What are we saying now? That since he is the Moker HaYechidi, the only source for this Nivra, that means to say that the Nivra has nothing of its own. Whatever it has already came from the Moker, only comes from the Moker, from nowhere else. So if it comes from the Moker already had that Shlemus, already had that Maila. Whatever this Nivra is, whatever Mailas he has, were already inside the Moker of the Nivra. So is the Nivra adding anything? Obviously not. What Moshel Gashmi could bring out this point? That what the Moker creates is no addition to what the Moker itself has. The Moshel of Ziv HaShemesh. The Ziv HaShemesh is the perfect Moshel, and perhaps only the only Moshel. And that's why it repeats itself. What is the Ziv HaShemesh? The Ziv HaShemesh is basically telling you that he has come from the Moker, and this Moker is very hot and very bright, and he's just telling you that that's what's doing in the Moker. He's just revealing something that's... Does the Ziv have anything that's not in the Shemesh? Is it possible that he should have anything not from the Shemesh? His whole Metzias, who's Mahava the Ziv? The Shemesh. So, Hu Levada HaMetzia, the Shemesh is the only source for this Ziv. So is it possible for the Ziv to have anything more than what's already inside the Shemesh? If it's there, then obviously it's inside the Shemesh already. And Adrab, in the Shemesh, there's much, much more of that. Whatever heat you have in the Ziv, you have much, much more inside the Shemesh. Whatever brightness you have in the Ziv, you have much, much more inside the Shemesh. So the Ziv is no addition to the Shemesh. So basically, Mitzad the Shemesh, was anything added when the Ziv came out? Garnished. If the Ziv came out or didn't come out, it's the same thing. Mamish, no difference. You're not taking anything away from him, and you're not adding anything to him. And he doesn't know. If you imagine somebody lives inside the sun, if there would be such an emotion, this is such a dumach. Imagine that somebody was born inside the sun. Does he know what a ziv is? He's cozy inside there, it's nice and warm, and it's bright, and he's fine, everything's fine, there's nothing. What's the ziv? A ziv is only for people living on Earth, which is a dark planet, has no light of its own, and needs to wait for Aleis HaShachar, for the Netzach Hamah, to get some sunlight, and hopefully some heat. That's for people living outside the sun, but people living inside the sun, it's warm, it's fine. So, in other words, for somebody who's inside the sun, for the sun itself, what is the ziv? A spare tire, it's garnish. There's absolutely nothing, no unneeded at all. He doesn't know if he's there, if he's not there, makes no difference. Kaviyachol, the shemesh, in the nimshul is the Dvar Havaya. The Dvar Havaya is making the nivra. We're not saying it doesn't create the nivra. But this nivra that's created is like a ziv. What is the hisof of the ziv over the shemesh? Nothing. So what is the nivra added to the? It's like a ziv. So legabe the Dvar Havaya, did anything happen? Anything major happen over here? Nothing garnished. So efes pilode, there's nothing, because whatever was there is just merely adding on. It's just telling you what was already in the mocha anyhow. So let's look at the moshel now inside. The hamoshel azeh, to understand this point that the niv the efes pilode, the hamoshel azeh hu oir hashemesh hamei la'oretz v'adorim, shehu ziv v'oir hamispashit miguf hashemesh v'nira le'ein koil mei la'oretz. For anybody down here, it's important, this mei. Then the Alter Rebbe says, "V'nizeh poshet she'oir v'ziv hazeh yeshna gamkin v'guf v'chayim kada hashemesh." Obviously, if the ziv has managed to come all the way down to planet Earth, so the ziv definitely, where did it come from? It came from the shemesh. So it was already there in the shemesh. Atz Moshe Bashamayim. She'im mispashet u'meil l'meil rafik kol kach. If it manages to come all the way down here, it's koshken she'yuchol ha'harbim k'yim mamish. Obviously, in the shemesh, you definitely have all the milas of the ziv. Rak, the only difference is sheshom bim koimei mamish, inside the shemesh nechshav haziv hazeh la'ayv v'efes mamish. What chshivas does he have inside the shemesh? Garnished. Why is he not choshev? Because the shemesh itself is a moed. He's got all the milas of the ziv. Ki botol mamish b'metzias legabe guf kada hashemesh shumoka ha'oir v'haziv hazeh. Shahaziv ha'oir hazeh ein rak ha'or me'ira miguf v'etzem kada hashemesh. So the ziv has nothing to add. Down here on planet Earth, down here where it's dark, down here, the ziv is very choshev. It's called shem yesh. It has no name of yesh. Rak shem ayin ve'efes. It's garnished. כי באמס הוא שום לעין ואפס ממש, שאין מאה שום רק מקיר לבדה שהוף גוף השמש. המאה ואפס בלודי. So inside the shemesh you can say efes, there's nothing there. There's no ziv. Either is a ziv, because where did it come from? It came from the shemesh. Yeah, but what is it worth? It's as if it might as well not be there. Hein v'lav b'ashvor, being there, not being there is the same thing. What's the nimshul? The katvorim ha'ela mamish b'dmusum ketzamon heim kol ha'bruim legabi shefer oleki. So the shefer leki is going to be the shemesh, the ruach piv, and the nivra is going to be the ziv. So he says, the gabi shefer leki ruach piv hashefei aleim mahava isam, v'hu mekayram, v'heim atzman, the nivroim themselves, einam rak kama oir v'ziv mispashit min hashefer v'ruach Hashem. They're just like a ziv. Hashefei mislabish v'seichem mitzim lam yesh. V'lachein heim betelim b'mitzias legabi mekayram. That's why they're totally bottled towards their mocker, kama shemesh shabatel b'mitzias the nechshav la'ayin ve'efes mamish, ve'enikah b'shem yesh klal kashu b'mkayre. That makes it clear, right? What is the nekuda that added on for Perik Beis, for Perik Gimel? Perik Beis, we didn't know this bit. We need to be taken there. Achad von Rebbe said, the first two prakim tell us that the nivra is totally tolui on the Dvar Havaya. That's a bittul of, in order to exist, he needs the koyach to make him exist. But we didn't say maybe the nivra has some type of chshivas to it. Bittul means heder hachshivas. It has no worth, no value. Till now we didn't discuss that. We just discussed, is there a nivra here? Yeah, the nivra is here, but you should know that the nivra depends on the Dvar Havaya. That's all we know till now. Perik Gimel adds on, let's take a look if the nivra has any value. Because you might think, la'achri, that the Eibishter made the nivra, okay, the nivra needs the Dvar Havaya. He needs the Eibishter the whole time. We all need the Eibishter the whole time. But maybe, now that he's here, there's some type of shleimus, there's some type of maila. There was added something that wasn't here before. Just take the example of Kriyas Yamsuf, which is not mechuven to over here. Kriyas Yamsuf. The wind blew the Yamsuf and it's now standing. Isn't it a davar nifla that the wind is making the water stand? Of course, a davar nifla. It's added on a chidush nifla that never happened before. So maybe when the Dvar Havaya makes it a nivra, there's some chidush over here. There's a hafla that Eibishter created something new, and the new thing is called the world. It's taka davar nifla for us. But if you were to go back to the Dvar Havaya and look from it's a chidush, and it's a shleimus and a hafla for us. But if you go to look from upstairs, look from the bird's eye view of the Dvar Havaya, what happened over here? What is this physical table? What is this physical world? A ziv. And for somebody living inside the sun, the ziv means nothing. So the gabe the dvar havaya, nothing happened. No, there's nothing
What
added.
do you mean?
Efes belode.
Meile is to say that Gashmis is kulich hisari, because it's just as Gashmis and obvious. Aber the Poil is the aufgetan da Neizach.
For who is it an ayazach?
Even the guy with the Dvaravaya, it's not Gashmis, it doesn't have
Gabe
Gashmis.
the dvar havaya is something new? That's what he's saying, it's not true.
Gashmis. Doesn't have Gashmis.
Legabe Ruchnis, is there such a concept as Gashmius? Meaning, is there chiluk Legabe Ruchnis between Ruchnis and
So you
Gashmius?
read the for
It's only a hiskashmus and a yerida and a tzimtzum.
So there's
It's like saying,
there's no difference between Ruchnis and Gashmius? They're
What's that?
both Ziv, Vehara?
Yeah, that's what he says.
So I'm saying there's no real
No,
Gashmius.
Gashmius is merely that it's so far nista, it's so hidden, the Koyach HaMahava, that he is mamish looks like he's there and he's a Metzias Yesh. But Gashmius is not Legabe the Dvar Havaya. Again, we're talking only Legabe the Dvar Havaya, not Legabe us. Legabe the Dvar Havaya, this is a ziv. This is there's nothing added on here. Really. Nothing happened. Nothing new happened.
You can't put your hands, you're saying inside the Dvaravaya, you put your hands through it.
And that's what I told the Master of the Rebbe Yitzchak Adishvi, through the wall.
From the parak, it seems that the main word of Gimel is adding is not Hulabada and Mitzir Tamid, but rather the Dichel Ka'erech
No.
between the Ur.
It says on the second line what the Nakuda
Because
is.
since the Ziv is such
He
Dichel
says
Ka'erech,
on the third line of the Pedic exactly what he wants to say. This line is missed out, but people don't have it. The third line tells you. He says, Yovan Ashuri Shekol Niver V'Yeshu Be'emes Nechshav La'ayin Ve'efes Mamish. That's what he wants to reach. He wants to tell you that this is Ephes.
Mitzad Dichel Ka'erech though.
His chshivas is Ephes. Why is his chshivas Ephes? So he says, two lines, two explanations. First of all, we learned already before that he's dependent totally. And if he wouldn't have the Dvar he's off, he's gone, he's not here. That's number one. And then number two, add to that, which is self-understood, but it's taking the same Nakuda further. Who makes him into a Metzias? In other words, where does he get anything that he has? Any shleimus that he has is coming from the Dvar Havaya. So Legabe the Dvar Havaya, is the Nivra adding anything? Is he choshuv or not? Does he have any chshivas? He has no chshivas. Just like the Ziv has no chshivas to the Shemesh. So the Dvar Havaya is the Shemesh and the Nivra is a Ziv, and the Ziv doesn't add anything. So Legabe the Dvar Havaya, this whole world is Klo Choshuv. So until now, all we learned that he doesn't have any self. Now we learn he not only doesn't have any self, any self-existence, he has no chshivas either. So
Metzias means no chashivus?
that's what he says. Nechshav la'ayin ve'efes.
That's
Metzi-
Metzias.
No, Metzias, the bittul of Metzias. The Metzias, his Metzias is bottle. That means his Metzias, whatever he is, has no chshivas. His bottle. Put it like this: there's two meanings to. What's that?
Chashivus.
Chshivas means he has no value. Has no value. In Chassidus, there's two translations of the word bittul. There's bittul in Nigla.